I can't sleep again. Every once in a while, I'll just do one of these videos where I'm about to go to bed and I'm up a little bit later than I probably wanted to be. And then I'm like, hey, what about that YouTube video I wanted to film? How about we do that now? So it's 11:11 and I'm feeling a little under the weather, but that's never stopped me before. Today I want to talk about fear. I'm running in fear. And my experience with fear, and the one thing I'm actually afraid of, because I'm not afraid of spiders or bees or a girl rejecting me or whatever, people are afraid of. I'm only afraid of one thing. And before we get into that, I want to talk about what I used to be afraid of and how I overcame it, I guess, before we get to the big thing that you can scare me with, I guess. Don't actually try to scare me, that'd be kind of mean. But yeah, let's get into that. I was like probably 6 or 7 years old, and I was afraid of spiders. I remember I first felt the fear when so in my old house, oh my god, I need water so bad. Sorry guys, I need water. Just a reminder to stay hydrated, guys. I'm so thirsty right now. Okay, as I was saying, it was like, I don't know, 2014 probably. At my old house that I'd been in for like 5 or 6 years at the time, we had this this huge play set, It had the slides, it had the swings, it had everything. It had a sandbox too. My dad and my uncle built it. It was really cool. But I remember one day I was there and I saw a spider at the bottom of the slide, a tiny spider. And I was afraid of it for a second. And I don't know exactly what my dad or anybody else around me said, but at some point I realized like how tiny spiders are, usually, and how big we are, usually, and how powerful we are in comparison to spiders. And I realized I have nothing to be afraid of in the terms of spiders, because I could just crush it with my foot, I could crush it with my fingers, I could crush it just like by sitting on it. Same thing kind of happened with bees. I wasn't really as afraid of bees. I used to be really afraid of like bees and wasps and stuff, because I got stung by a bee a couple of times. One time it was like right here on the rim of it was close to my eye. I was walking to the community center in my town, and it was actually my birthday, and it was also it was coincidentally the day that I met my stepmom and my step siblings. It was pretty crazy. We were walking in, and there was this bee. I don't even think it was a bee. I think it was a horsefly, just flying in a circle. Right as it was going through that circle, I walked in, and it was like, ugh! It stung me right on the freaking eye. It was crazy. It almost stung my dad, but it did not succeed in doing that. I think I was kind of afraid of just something stinging me, but then I learned from my mom, like, bees don't really attack you. Wasps are fucking menaces, but bees don't really do anything. They're not really trying to harm anybody. They're just trying to pollinate and stuff. I slowly grew out of being afraid of bees because I knew that if I didn't bother them, they wouldn't bother me. And it was really funny because my ex-girlfriend, we went on this one date, and then while we were waiting for her mom to come to pick us up, there was this bee. It just showed up. I mean, I was like, yep, it's a bee. It's hot out. It's nice. There's flowers. And she got so scared. And it's nothing against my ex-girlfriend, but she was so scared. And I was like, why are you so afraid of this bee? And it landed on her drink, and she's like, oh my god, it's on my drink. I was just sitting right next to it. She got off the place. We were sitting on this like brick wall, and she just hopped off so fast. It was so funny. And I was like, why are you so afraid of this bee? Because at that time, I was like, it's a bee. There's these things called irrational fears, and I don't really know the definition, but it's basically just something that you really shouldn't be afraid of, but you have a reason that doesn't make any sense as to why you're afraid of it. I don't really have any of those fears. I have some more abstract ones, some more like psychological mini fears, I guess, but I don't really think about them that often. When I say them, I mean there's really one, but we'll get to that. So I was afraid of bees. I was afraid of butterflies at one point. I know that seems like the fucking weirdest thing ever, but I remember it vividly when I was out in Tucson when we were going hiking for the first time. Butterflies were everywhere because it was so warm, it was so humid, and I was just afraid. They're like flying cats. I don't even know what I called them. I called them something like weird because I was afraid of them, and I was like, I mean, at the time, now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, why was I afraid of them? But it was kind of the same situation with bees. They're like flying around, they're unpredictable. I think it was more of a fear of maybe positive things, because butterflies really don't do anything. I mean, they form from caterpillars, they go in a cocoon, they just come out with wings, and then they're beautiful, you know? They don't really do anything. So I don't really know why I was afraid of butterflies. Maybe I was just afraid of nice things in the world. Maybe I wasn't used to it. Maybe my life wasn't that great back then. I don't know. I can't really remember anything from before this year. I'm just kidding. Obviously, I remember some things, but like usually, I don't remember anything that wasn't that important. So I forgot how to do long division. That hopefully doesn't come back to bite me someday. But I have not used it since I learned it. That's actually, I'm being honest, I have not used long division since we got calculators. I've not needed to use it, so I hope I don't need to use it ever again. Oh boy, that's my next fear, long division. But yeah, I wasn't really afraid of too many things as a kid. I was probably afraid of snakes at one point. I mean, we've had snakes. We've had garden snakes. We've had there was a rattlesnake. Maybe it wasn't a rattlesnake. It was some kind of snake that was poisonous down on our West Virginia property. And my friend Garrett, he fucking cut it off with the loppers, bro. It was crazy. So yeah, I wasn't really afraid of that many things because I kind of knew how everything worked. Not everything, but I knew how the animal kingdom worked. I knew that nothing could really hurt us as humans unless we went out of our way to annoy them, right? So as I got older, I wasn't really afraid of anything, and I'm still not really afraid of anything. I don't have fears of tiny things like spiders or bees or bugs. I kind of just embrace everything as it is and accept things for what they are. And there's one thing, like I said earlier, one thing that I'm actually afraid of. One thing that I can't necessarily shake sometimes. Sometimes it overwhelms me, like what am I going to do about this? I don't know how many people have this fear. I don't know if it's that many people, but the one thing I'm actually afraid of is the fear of being forgotten. Now, obviously, you might be like, well, that's ridiculous. You record YouTube videos. You're here right now. I don't mean right now. I mean, what year is it? Like 80 or 90 years from now, I'm 100 years old, I'm on my deathbed. Are people going to remember me? That's the fear. I'm afraid that my life isn't going to be good enough to be remembered by somebody. Sure, maybe my family will remember me, anyone who's born after me that knows me, but I mean, just regular ass people. People like you who are watching this video. Are you going to remember me? I don't know. And that uncertainty is really, I think, what I'm afraid of. Not so much people aren't going to remember me. Maybe just the fact that I don't know how I'm going to end up. I don't know how my life's going to turn out. And I wasn't really afraid of that recently because I started accepting that things aren't always certain. Not everything is going to be able to be planned. Not everything's going to be put in a routine because not everybody is the same. Not everybody has the same schedule. But I have this genuine fear that my life isn't going to be good enough, that I'm not going to do things that are worth remembering, things that are beneficial to people, beneficial to me, or beneficial to people that I care about. So I thought about how to overcome this fear because I don't really have that realization that often. I don't really think about it too much. And it's not like I'm suppressing it. It's like I don't really have a reason to think about it because usually my life is pretty damn good. Usually I'm very grateful for what I have. I'm very, very fortunate. I mean, if you couldn't tell, I've got 3 iPhones for my recording setup and a new green screen. If you haven't seen it, it's amazing. I'm still thinking, like, what if nobody remembers me when I'm gone? What if when I'm gone and my children and my grandchildren are gone, who's going to remember me? You know? And I'd like to think that YouTube's going to be around 100 years from now, but I'm not 100% sure. The internet might not even exist by then. Maybe we'll just all be thinking wirelessly, we'll have neural links in our brains, and we won't need the internet. I don't know. The uncertainty is probably the real factor that I'm afraid of. Not really people are remembering me, because I go through my life trying to make sure that I help people. Trying to make sure that people come out from talking to me better. And that people are benefited by talking to me. People are benefited by knowing me and by hearing what I have to say or by being around me. Instead of it being the opposite, like people are annoyed by me or people are irritated by me or people think I'm weird or stupid. That's usually what people think. And if you don't think that, thanks. But that's what I've noticed, is people like to just make fun of me. People like to think I'm weird or think I'm crazy. And I am all those things, but nobody's really normal. And I know it should be abundantly clear by now, I'm on the autism spectrum. I've probably said it a couple times now. There's a literal term, neurodivergent, that's what being on the autism spectrum means, and neurotypical. And I know some people in my school who make fun of people by calling them autistic. And I don't say anything because it's not my place. I'm barely on the spectrum, but I'm on there enough. I should be offended by our social standard. Like, oh, you're making fun of this thing that I am? Then I need to tell you about it. But it's not my obligation to tell you. You'll learn eventually from somebody who has more patience than me that you shouldn't make fun of anybody for anything. You shouldn't say things at the detriment of someone else just because it's funny to you or you think that it makes sense. Because I actually hear people in my classes still say, oh, bro, you're autistic. Why are you doing this? And I'm like, I don't have the patience to turn around and be like, hey man, I'm on the autism spectrum. Don't make fun of that. That's not my job. My job is to get good grades and to make good friends and to run fast. That's really what I'm supposed to be doing right now. My job isn't to fix people. My job isn't to educate people. That's a secondary thing. And that's why I do this. And that's why I've stopped doing more gaming and just regular concrete videos. I've been trying to go more abstract. I've been trying to do things that a lot of people don't like to talk about because it's complicated, because it's messy. But the messiest things in life, the most complicated things, the most challenging things, are usually the most fun things. When we don't have a definite understanding of things, then it takes more brain power. And usually that makes you uncomfortable. Usually that makes you feel like, oh, what the hell? I don't understand this right away. This doesn't make a lot of sense. What am I supposed to do? Because when we don't have a definition for it, usually we try to avoid it. Usually we're afraid of it. But I like to stare those things right in the face and be like, okay, I'm gonna figure this out, whether you like it or not. So let's figure it out. And that's what I hope to do with these videos, is I hope to dive into these topics that not everybody likes to talk about, like boredom, or the meaning of life, or stuff like this, like fear. Fear of being forgotten, the fear of bees or spiders, you know? Some people are still afraid of spiders as adults, you know? And when I see that, I'm like, okay, are you really afraid of something that happened with a spider? Or are you actually afraid of spiders? Because I don't think you should actually be afraid of spiders. That's why they're called irrational fears, because they don't make sense rationally. It might make sense to you, but it doesn't make sense to anybody else who isn't afraid of them, right? When I go more abstract like this, I'm hoping to reach people who need it. Not people who've probably already heard it, or people who don't care about it, people who need it. People who need to hear that life has some meaning, or that they can find a meaning in their life, or that boredom is actually a great thing that can help you be more productive and can help you manage your mental health. You know, stuff like this, like being afraid is okay. You wanna know how I cope with the fear of being forgotten? The only thing I'm afraid of? I live my life to the fullest. I do good, not for me, but for everybody else. Because my needs are met. There's this idea that I've been thinking about recently, how radically different my life would be if I didn't have such loving parents and such fortunate living conditions. I feel like I would have still found my way like this eventually. Just it would have taken longer. I know that my situation is it's not replicatable. It's not something that you easily achieve just by being nice, being kind. That's not the incentive. The incentive shouldn't be to do it to get something. The incentive should be to do it so you're a better person. And it's not a selfish thing, because you're not doing it to gain something that's like evil or devious or mischievous or whatever. It's to better yourself, so then you can do better by everybody else. So yeah, I cope with the fear of being forgotten by being the best version of myself and doing better every day for me and for everybody else. Because the greatest gift that a human could give another human is love and kindness and respect and creativity and passion. And it's something that a lot of people take for granted. They expect respect and kindness just out of the gate, and then they treat people like crap. And it's just not, it's not right. And those people will eventually realize they're not going to get their way all the time. And those people are probably also only children, because nobody is really evil, but there is a reason that I will not have one child. If I ever have kids, I'm only having two. Not one, and not 3 or more than 3. Oh my God, that would be terrible. I'm not going to get into that today because that would be a whole another 5 minutes. So let me just leave you with this. Whatever you're afraid of, whether it's arachnophobia or tryptophobia, or there's some other ones I remember, but I didn't right now. Whatever you're afraid of, it's okay to be afraid because we don't always understand things. And we like to think that we know everything because we're humans, we're the top of the food chain, we've made the most advancements in any society or in any race or any species, right? But we don't know everything. And we will probably never know everything. We need to do better, not just to benefit ourselves, but to benefit everybody else. The goal of this video is not only to be honest with you about my fear, because it does keep me up at night. Like tonight, I was thinking about it, and that's why I made this video. I'm also making this video because I know some people are genuinely afraid of things, like the fear of abandonment, or the fear that they aren't loved, or they're not accepted, or the fear that they may not live to see another day, or the fear that nobody really cares about them. And all those fears come from insecurity. And insecurity is not a bad thing. It's natural because our society expects you to care about other people's opinions and care about what other people think of you. And to that I say, no. You don't have to care. You don't. You just don't. Like, I can't stress it enough. You don't have to care. That's the one thing I want you to take away from any of my videos. You don't have to give a shit about what other people say about you. Unless it's someone whose opinion you value. It does not matter at all. Because those same people who you don't care about, who are giving you a piece of their mind, are the same people who are jealous and insecure and want to put other people down to make themselves feel better. And of course, it's not always just as simple as that. Sometimes people are trying to be nice and trying to be respectful, but they see somebody and they're jealous, and that insecurity kicks in. And that's the main reason why people gossip. And it's nothing against anybody who gossips. Deep down, that's why you do it, because you're jealous. And that's okay, because nobody is perfect. And I'm not saying don't gossip, because that's like asking the moon to not come up after the sun goes down. It's impossible to really get rid of that, because society expects that from everybody. But I just try to be the change that I want to see. And I know that's so cringe, but it's true. I want my example to be the example that people follow. So, yeah, being afraid is okay, and don't care about what people think. And go to bed before 11:30 at night, because sleep is important. And stay hydrated. So, as always, I will see every single one of you capable, amazing people in the next video. Bye-bye!